This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to you. It's great to have you here this evening with us for our public input session on the Old Municipal Hall. We're keen to hear from you. I want to begin just by acknowledging our traditional territory. We are acknowledging that we are here gathering on the traditional territory of the Secwepemc people, with whom we share these lands, where we live and we work together. We're meeting both in person and virtually. I see virtually Councillor Lavery is with us, along with several other folks from the public. Councillor Wallace-Richmond, Councillor Ganella, and myself are in the council chamber, and we'll see if others get here a little bit later. So we'll start with us. Councillors, I'm just going to ask disclosures of interest are interesting on an evening like this. If you feel at any time that you need to leave because you have a close association with the speaker, just let me know, and I'll pause for that minute. It may not be necessary, it'll be up to you. So residents, thank you for coming and sharing with us. I'll let you know a little bit about the process this evening. So our role up here and virtually is to listen today. We're keen to hear about your ideas and your thoughts about this building and ideas you have for what we may decide to do with it. I'm going to start by having presentations of 5 minutes in length. And when we get to 5 minutes, I'll give you my recess ding bell. That's the summarize please bell. And if you need more than 5 minutes, we'll let others speak and we'll invite you to come back. We want to make sure you have enough time, but we also want to make sure everyone has enough time to have their opportunity to speak. Council won't be making any decisions. This is actually not a council meeting, but rather a town hall meeting. So we will certainly be gathering the information that you give to us. We have made no decisions regarding this building to date. We're wondering ourselves, and that's why we want to talk with you. So to start with, we'll have Gary Buxton, who's our Director of Planning and Community Services, do a brief presentation for us all, just so everyone has the same information prior to us hearing the information from you. So Mr. Buxton, good evening. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much and welcome. Thank you for coming out, everyone. So yes, our old Municipal Hall on Hudson Avenue, it's over 100, or getting close to 100 years old. It's our first municipal hall, dating back from the very start of the community. And now, those images are a little small, but I say the main part of the building, the initial brick part of the building, dates from the 1920s. There are additions in the 1970s and 1980s. The historical part of the building's about 1,250 square feet in total. Probably at least that same amount in the addition to the rear of the north of the building. The top, you can see some of the exterior and interior build part images of the building. I mean, on the historical side, there's a couple of small washroom area and the old document vault. The newer area on the lower images on the slide here, that's sort of an open space. There is a small kitchen in there as well, so that's just an open meeting or community gathering space. And there we go. We're up in the roof, looking at some of the roof structure. Those images are a little tough to see. The image on the right particularly is what you can't see are the bracing bands that support the roof, and that part of the problem. It's a little difficult to see. It was a little difficult to get pictures of any sort. So there has been a hazardous materials assessment done on the building. It does contain asbestos, lead paint, and crystalline silica. So with all of those, whatever we do, those issues are going to have to be dealt with. So there are some images there of the building as it currently is. The structural assessment from 2023 rates the building as in poor condition. There are issues with the roof walls and foundation, so there are fundamental problems with the building. That report offered 4 options, the first one being a full replacement of a building of a similar size. That's about $1.5 million. A partial replacement that would retain some historical value, some of the brickwork on the original part of the building. That's about $1.5 million as well. Those numbers are all estimates. In all likelihood, they'll go up once you start to do the work, once you start to get into the building. But that again can be managed once and if you get to that project with a more detailed review prior to starting, so you would know what you're getting into. But that's a best guesstimate. The third option was repair and revitalize, which is essentially trying to salvage the building as best you can. That's $1 million. And then the fourth option was the interim repairs, getting the building back to the point that it's safe to occupy. The minimum structural repairs that you need to do, that's $150,000. That doesn't include anything in terms of the mechanical, electrical, or any of the other operational parts of the building. It simply gets it safe to open. In terms of some sort of larger, more strategic options that we've considered that are open for discussion and debate, we could use the site to create a new small open space or parklet. If you go with minimal landscaping and some furniture, you could probably get in the area of $50,000. If you wanted to do something a little bit more elaborate with landscaping, some interpretive features, and some shade sails, that's in and around $150,000. It doesn't include the $100,000 that it's going to cost to bring the building down, if that's the case. Leasing the building, provided that the rehab issues and the safety issues are addressed, which requires a structural engineer to supervise that work. We could lease the building. That, as I say, is going to cost us probably at least $150,000 to get to that point. Renovation of the building, as I say, that's similar to the prior options. That's $1.5 million. Redeveloping the property, if you maximize the site for both the institutional component, some programming space, that's around $2 million. The previous $1.5 million gets you a building of the same size, but if you actually demolish and use the site more effectively, it's $2 million. A more comprehensive mixed-use building is $4 million or up. So that's sort of maximizing the use of the site. Finally, demolition and selling the site at disposition, that's potentially $400,000 to $500,000 worth of revenue. And just in closing, one of the options that has been floated in the last couple of weeks is to sort of do a bit of both, and that's retain or renovate the historical portion and demolish the rear. I'm not sure that makes a huge difference from the 1.5 that previously went as a renovation estimate. It's difficult to know. We haven't priced this out, but I would suspect it's not substantially different. So that's the only other option that has emerged as a different idea. So I think that's really it.
Thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate that. So we at least all have the same base information. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to invite in a minute the first group to come to the microphone, and I'm going to start with the group from Haney because they have a meeting that they need to get to. So I think I see Pat out there, but I don't see Deborah yet. Oh, Deborah, I didn't see you in that orange. But okay, so I'm going to invite them first just because they have to go. If you are wanting to speak, the on-deck chair is that first chair right there. So as you see these people come up, if there's nobody in that chair, please come and sit in it. And once they're finished, we will move them out and you'll just move in, and then somebody else will come and sit in that chair. So we'll be as efficient as we can. All right, let's start then. Welcome, Deborah and Pat. Please come forward. We're starting you with 5 minutes to see how that goes.
5 minutes each?
5 altogether, but very nice try.
But we both did a speech.
Sorry?
We both got a speech. We didn't coordinate. We didn't coordinate.
So are you saying you're separate presenters?
Yes. So Deborah can
Okay, go for
herself.
it.
I'll let Deborah.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. Okay, Deborah, please go ahead.
Your worship, councillors, city staff, and guests in the gallery. I'm sorry. My name is Deborah Chapman, and though I have been the curator archivist at RJ Haney Heritage Village and Museum for the past 35 years and currently sit on the Community Heritage Commission, I am instead here today to speak as your community archivist and to advocate for the preservation of the original portion of the old Municipal Hall. The first stage of the register was undertaken in 2010, and an architect from Birmingham and Wood was hired to describe the character-defining elements of Salmon Arm's most important buildings. The old Municipal Hall was number 1 on the heritage list. Simply put, it was a symbol of our community. Back then, I worked with a team of experts and did the research for them. I told the architect that the structure was built by Billy Reeder in 1928 and was said to have been made from Enderby brick. I told him that it had been reinvented as a library when the district amalgamated with the village in 1970, that it was also home to the CSRD. Later still, it was occupied by the Senior Citizens Drop-In Association and used as a gathering place, before it was used as a space by the Arts Centre for its programs. The Municipal Hall was a very humble building compared to the 2 other government buildings that were later added to the street. The Post Office, now the Arts Centre, the Courthouse, and the Municipal Hall made up the government precinct and represented its different levels. I brought some images with me today, and I'm hoping Gary will share them with you. And they should show up as numbers.
It's going to take a few minutes to.
Oh. I'm quite hopeful that others will follow me this evening with some ideas about how to fund a restoration. You should know, however, that the Salmon Arm Museum has taken advantage of these kind of programs in the past. Because Haney Heritage House is protected by the City of Salmon Arm by a bylaw, it qualified for 2 grants from the BC Heritage Trust, which resulted in our new roof and a new foundation. We jacked that baby up and we had her on stilts for a while. The museum also qualified for a cultural spaces grant offered by the federal government. And that was when we renovated the Broadview School into the Children's Museum. The CSB also funds gathering spaces for the community. I feel quite strongly about this building. It has character. It stands out when compared to other commercial buildings that are built today. I believe it is your duty as members of the City Council to find a way to preserve this building, because not only is it your building, it is the community's, and it is all residents. Once our heritage buildings are gone, they are gone for good. And this one has been entrusted to you to preserve. I hope you don't send it to the landfill. And I'm hoping Gary has my pictures. It starts off with an aerial, but it's an aerial from 1960 to 67. And I know it's that date because the Montebello Hotel is still in place. It was easier when we had that machine here, that non-digital. They're all TIFF files. Is that a problem? Yes, so this, could we go to zero, the one that starts with a 0? Thank you, Aaron. Oh. So that's the aerial, and I don't know if you can zoom in, Aaron. That's as big as it gets. And the triangle that I'm talking about has the courthouse, and I'm just looking for references. Yeah, thank you, Lise. The center left at the top. Is that right? Yes. Yeah, in that way a bit more to the left. Right there. No, that's the area. Okay, so let's go on to number 1. My numbering system got creative as I go on. The next image should be the opening in 1928. It was said to be the best we could do with the funds we had available at that time. Doesn't that sound modern? So opening day, there's council in front of the district council, not the village council. Everybody here understands what happened in, I don't know, 1912, when the district, the downtown core split away from the district of Salmon Arm. So that's Billy Rader, no landscaping. So the next one, oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. How many pictures do you have?
I have half a dozen, but you could just play them while Patty talks. I'm sure that would be okay with Patty.
Okay, thank you very much. Patty, please come forward. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you for that history piece.
I'll cut some of this out because Deborah's already talked about it. So good evening, your worship, members of City Council, city staff, everyone in the gallery and those online. My name is Pat Casson. I'm a member of the city's Community Heritage Commission on the board of Salmon Arm Museum and Heritage Association and a volunteer at Haney, RJ Haney. So thank you for allowing me to speak. So we already talked about the register. I'll skip that part. So I feel that this building with its craft influenced design style and brick building material, as Deb said about Enderby Brick Yard, helps the downtown area retain its small town charm. We want people to visit our downtown so it can remain vital and interesting, and encourage our townspeople and visitors to come and enjoy all that it has to offer. It is very uninteresting for me to go to a mall as the stores all look the same and there's no charm or uniqueness. Deb didn't, I don't think she mentioned, we've got a total of 50 locations, properties and locations on the Heritage Register, and many of our old buildings like McGuire House and Delkushka are gone. However, the old Municipal Hall definitely needs help, as Gary said. The old addition at the back needs to be taken off. It is not historical and adds no value. On the historical front of the building, the number of cracks on the outside wall definitely need repairing, as does the inside. I realize that council is under great financial pressure. Old Memorial Arena, water treatment, sewer plant upgrades, and there's not enough money for all these projects. Because of this, people may say, why would you save an old building? I feel that heritage conservation helps us acknowledge our past, value the present, and build a sustainable future. Famous writer and activist Maya Angelou said, you can't really know where you're going until you know where you've been. Knowing our past helps us to go forward. In addition, how do we build a sustainable future? If we are always tearing down, the material just goes to the landfill, which we should be preserving, not just tearing down, as Deborah said. I know that 4 options have been suggested. What about a 5th option, a combination of several? Demolish the addition of the back of the building. It is not well built and not historical. This is Bernd Hermansky's idea. Subdivide the property and sell off the vacant land. Use that money to renovate and fix the outside of the building and determine if, as Deb said, if there's federal or provincial money to assist with repairs or renovation. Use that money to renovate or fix the outside and use the saved city money to fix the inside. If there is no grant money, use the land sale process to fix only the outside, then start a fundraising campaign to raise funds for the inside. That may take time. Maybe OHS and the Community Heritage Commission could join forces as they've done in the past. Once renovated, then lease the space to a business or rent to a not-for-profit and use rental money to pay for the operational costs. The pros, it maintains the heritage building. There's potential sales revenue if leased, potential public or program use. And if extra property is sold, maybe it increases parking spaces in downtown. Cons, we may not be able to subdivide the property and sell it. There's no government funding, no one to champion fundraising. That concludes my comments, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat. Just for everybody's information, can you share the difference between the Heritage Register in Salmon Arm and the Provincial Heritage Registry?
So the register is just a listing. It documents the significance of our historic locations in Salmon Arm and puts in place a framework. So it's just a listing, and it doesn't stop anyone from even tearing down the building. Whereas if you're on the if you're a registered property, you can't tear it down, right? So Haney is on the Salmon Arm one, so it can't be torn down. But anything on the register, some of the properties are already gone that are on the register.
Thank you for that information. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Sorry, Bert. I stole your.
Barrett, you're on deck. Come on up.
Thank you, Your Worship, council, staff, and public. So I'm very much in favor of trying to keep this building. With a couple of partners, we own the old courthouse building across the street from 2003 till 2022. And we did a major makeover of that building in 2006. And I 100% feel it was worth it. I think we saved what is arguably the best and most important historic building in town through those efforts. This one, while not as grand as the courthouse, and maybe not even as grand as the art gallery building, but it does form that lovely precinct of heritage buildings. And in our community that in its early days, at least, was a relatively not wealthy community, a bunch of fruit farmers, didn't have the railroad money that Revelstoke had, and did not have the mining money that Nelson had. But why do we love those two communities so much, and why do tourists go there so much? It's largely the heritage content. They're not going there to look at the Walmart store, I can guarantee you. They're going there because of the rich heritage architecture to a large degree. And that is what makes those two communities that we know so well so charming to go to. Well, we have a very poor, but relatively small, at least, bunch of heritage quality architecture here. So I think it's even doubly important here that we save what little we have, even if it's not super grade A. Like, I wouldn't say that this building is a super grade A piece of heritage architecture like you might find in downtown Victoria, where we recently did a job, by the way, where we converted the old Burke store into I'm almost embarrassed to tell you, an A&W restaurant down in the heritage area of downtown Victoria. And you would not believe the hoops we had to jump through in renovating that 160-year-old building as far as the appearance and keeping what was historicist about it. So in this case, and I've only had a quick glimpse at the building, but I mean, I've been living across the street from it for the last 20 years. So yes, it has some structural damage. I personally feel it's damage that can be repaired. I don't think for a minute that it would cost $1.5 million to make it leasable. I think, and I brought a sketch, I don't know if you have an aerial view here that would, a Google Earth image of the site, but I feel approximately half the site could be cut off. Obviously, the back part of the building has already been said worthless from a heritage point of view, and it's a cheap, nasty piece of building at best and should just be thrown away immediately. And then I think one could subdivide off the back piece of the property, leaving just enough to contain the heritage portion that we're talking about, and sell that. And if the entire site might yield 400,000 or 500,000, as Mr. Buxton indicated, maybe the back half would yield half of that. So let's say 200 or 250. Well, that would already go a long way towards doing the basic structural repairs, which the engineering report had estimated at about 150,000. I think to do the structural repairs and get rid of the asbestos and put in a modern heating system, perhaps by way of a ductless split heat pump system or something like that, that it could be made quite rentable. And then someone like me or some other professional office perhaps might be its highest and best use. I don't think it's a good retail space with its lack of show windows. But as a small professional office, or perhaps if the city had any inclination to reinstate some sort of physical tourism office, it would be a natural, I think. And you should be able to rent that out for probably a couple of thousand a month, so there's 24,000 a year that could go towards maintaining the maintenance cost, if the city continued to own it, which I would recommend, that the city own it and lease it out. But the initial 250 they could get from a land sale, that may not be quite enough to get it into position, but maybe there are grants available. Maybe the city would be able to find a couple of 100,000 kicking around somewhere that isn't needed for the new pool, the new indoor soccer, the pickleball, the water plant, the sewage plant. I know there's a lot of demands for every penny that we have available. However, I do feel strongly enough that this is, another little piece of our very small, precious heritage stock that is worth preserving. I was quite grumpy the day I drove down the hill after doing that 1,000 times and seeing the old brick fire hall in a pile of rubble. I don't know why we let that happen. That was a super cute little building. This one is another one, and we don't have many. So I think this one's important.
Thank you very much, Bernd. Thank you for your presentation and for your ideas. Mr. Murray, you are on deck. I could see you leaving that chair, but there's nobody in it.
Okay. I was sitting there getting my thoughts together, thinking about what everybody was talking about. And I think it's really, really important to preserve that building. I worked next to it for a lot of years. I used to just sometimes sit there and eat my lunch and admire that building. And more recently, actually, I should say there's a fair number of people here that are going to talk about preserving the outside of the building. I'm here to, bring forward something for the inside of the building. Recently, I've had an idea. I've spoken to a number of people in town about it. I'd like to see a science center built in Salmon Arm, a living classroom. They have one in Vernon. They have one in Kamloops. I think we could do an amazing one, build an amazing, site here in Salmon Arm. And that'd be a great building for it. You don't need a large building. The outside being intact. I remember years ago, God, I don't know how many years, probably close to 50 years ago, when the St. Boniface Basilica in Winnipeg burnt down. It was devastating. I went out and looked at the destruction. I mean, I almost wept. It was such a beautiful building. And what they did was they took everything that remained and built a new building. And it's amazing, right? I know there's a lot of work that needs. I've stood there and stared at that building, taken photographs, wondered about what it would cost to restore the outside of the building. I think it's doable. More importantly, I think it should be done. It's part of the heritage of this town, this city, this village at one time. A science center sort of links the past with the future. And there's so many connections. Bruce Aiken had. I was thinking about him the other day, right? The things that have gone on, I just think, I don't want to talk about myself, but I do a science camp up at the college, and the kids love it. They love that camp. It's science for kids who aren't into science. And I've gone to the one in Vernon, I've gone to the one in Kamloops, I've gone to ones in other cities. And I know that we could build an amazing facility here in Salmon Arm. I mean, my father always used to say, you'll never see a hearse pulling a U-Haul. I would gladly donate $50,000 to $100,000 worth of resources to it. I've collected fossils for 65 years. All that stuff I would gladly donate if they would build a science center. I'm sure the connection with the Aikenhead family, I mean, there's just so much, science history, and then the future of science, the future of young minds. I know what those kids, they make their own rockets, and shoot them off. They hunt for fossils. They identify skulls. We bring in live owls. They do sensory deprivation. They do so much in a 1-week camp. Can you imagine if we had a year-round facility here where we could do all sorts of stuff? Was that my, yeah, okay. Well, anyways,
That was not
oh, it
your.
was, well, I think there's a lot of, I just want to bring forward the idea of, a science center. It could be an amazing thing that would draw people to Salmon Arm. And we could still have our heritage building. I'm thinking of in terms of what we would do with the inside of that building. So anyways, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, James. Thanks for bringing forward your idea. Just before we go to Dorothy, I'll just see if there's anyone virtually, because I don't want these people to feel left out. Is there anyone virtually who would like to present to us? If you would, please unmute now. Okay, I will come back and ask you again, people who are here virtually, but we'll go back to the people in the gallery. Thank you, Dorothy. Please come forward.
Oh, well, I was under the assumption that you would be. Anyway, have you got it here at all? I can. Oh, well, sorry to take time.
We can take a pause
Okay.
because you'd like to read your letter, so that's fine.
Yes, well, I wasn't planning on coming this evening. I've been suffering with a cold, and I thought, well, I'll just send in a little, and I have been away, just got back last night, so I thought I'd just write a little letter and Gary received it probably about 10 to 4 this afternoon, and then I thought, well, I've been here so many years campaigning and advocating for history and saving the buildings of Salmon Arm, and I just thought it was my duty to make one last pitch for this wonderful, wonderful little cornerstone of Salmon Arm. It's, when you think about it, was the first, structured government building, and it's like Mrs. McGuire's, corner post into the city. And I think that so much has gone on to honor, the city of Salmon Arm, that the pioneers that have come before us, that have given their, blood, sweat, and tears through the very tough times that we've never seen. That I think we really owe it to dedicating this corner to pioneers. And with that, I don't have my glasses. Excuse me.
I'm turning off the timer to stop it, so don't worry, don't rush. That would be unfair to take your time up.
So I dashed this letter off, so I apologize for its inaccuracies, maybe. If the city had acted back in 2009 when a heritage strategy was first laid out by Hobson and Associates, perhaps this wonderful cornerstone could have been saved. I was on the city's Heritage Commission then. But they, meaning the powers to be, have ignored the obvious and pleas from many who have spoken out for the need of repairs over the years. Below is an email letter, 2021, from Olena Bramble, chair of the then Seniors Drop-In Center, indicating the brickwork was not addressed. And I'll just read her letter, please. Dear Dorothy, there's a bit of info to share about the senior citizen on Hudson and the city. In 2018, we received a letter from the city saying they had some $35,000 left after their budgeting. This was to be used for a new roof, some brickwork, and some tying and bolting. The roof was done. Then COVID came and all activity had to stop, but of course, bills had to be paid. We asked the city for help, and the city said they could not support 2 senior centers. It was recommended we dissolve the society. The Canoe Senior Center and the Fifth Avenue Senior Center took most of everything we had. 5 years ago, a bingo records are being kept at the city. Haney Museum asked for our society minutes. I hope this info helps you to inform anyone asking. This is me talking now. I'm extremely disappointed regarding the lack of respect and gratitude from our present day citizens toward our pioneers who persevered through tough times. In the 1900s, to secure and utilize this public building as the first municipal hall, post office, library, and then a public place for people to enjoy. Many clubs rented this space, particularly because they could afford the low rent. It was also the first government building to be constructed. If the building cannot be saved in some form, my vote would be to keep this location as a public park in memory of its pioneers. Respectfully submitted. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much, Dorothy, and thank you for taking the time to come down when you weren't feeling 100%. And for others who prefer a written submission to us, certainly we'll be accepting those until the end of this month, the end of June. So you feel welcome after you leave here. If you feel like there's something that was unsaid that you want to say, please send it to us and we'll be open to that information. It'll be shared with Mayor and Council. Okay, other people who wish to speak, please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening, come on forward.
Thank you. I'm Blaine Reddy. I guess step up to here so you can record it.
Hello, Blaine.
Hi, I'm Blaine Reddy. Been a resident of Salmon Arms since I was 10 years old when we moved here in 1965. I apologize. I was misinformed and didn't arrive until 6:30, so I'm not sure what's been said already. I am in favor of keeping as much of the original portion of the building as is there, and then in stepwise fashion, maintaining as much of the original facade, et cetera, et cetera. I would ask the council consider not letting happen to the building what happened to the arena, which is not maintaining it, letting the snow build up on the roof, and then get to the point where it has to be torn down. I would suggest whatever you're doing and until some decision is made to demolish the building is to keep the snow off the roof and keep the heat on inside so that there is some semblance of seeing that the building is good for some purpose. Secondly, that area with the grass in front of it is one of the very few open spaces in the downtown area, which allows for the low angles of the sun, particularly in the winter, to shine through. Secondly, if something was built out to the corner of the street or whatever, it really blocks the view of motorists turning right from Hudson Avenue northbound onto Shuswap. So I would suggest whatever's done with the building, if it is torn down, that the footprint of whatever new building be no larger than what is already there. It's nice to see that green grass in downtown Salmon Arm because other than a little bit right next to the highway on the courthouse with all the exhaust fumes and noise of the highway, it's one of the very few pieces of green space that's available. The other thing is, if it's torn down, I would suggest that it was probably going to be a very, very long time before you see something built there, because given current construction costs and the amount of vacant space in downtown Salmon Arm, we would just end up with an eyesore of a vacant lot, perhaps being used for parking or something like that. And this is much more appealing to the eye and is very much a part of our history. And in the words of the song Big Yellow Taxi, we don't know what we've got till it's gone. Pave paradise and put up a parking lot. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Blaine. I'll invite up anyone else who wishes to speak this evening. Please feel welcome to come forward. I'll go back to the virtual attenders. If there's anyone with us virtually who would like to present to council, please unmute now. I'm wondering about June. She did unmute. I don't know who June is, but okay. I don't see anyone unmuting there. Members in the gallery, does anyone else wish to come forward to speak? Deborah, I feel like we shorted you a little bit, and I think we have a little space here. If you have something more to say, that you're more than welcome. You can pull that mic down. That's a tall person.
Thank you. Did you know that the seats, the benches around the old municipal hall are the most used in our community? And that's because there's shade there. And grass. And beautiful flowers. Planted by the city of Salmon.
You guys told me you didn't plan together, but I'm not so sure. Continue.
No, she's on my shoulder. Anyway, I you know, it's that precinct is special. And like Bernd said, the architecture is limited in our downtown core, and other places I visit for holidays have beautiful downtowns. And I would have moved to Nelson if my life hadn't changed. And I would have moved to Victoria if I could have afforded a house there. So I'm here in Salmon Arm, and I really love our downtown because we can walk. I moved so I can walk everywhere and appreciate the architecture. Anyway, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to ask one more time. And if you're a repeat speaker, I'll just wait and make sure that everybody had a chance. Okay, everyone's had a chance. I think both Barrett and James want to speak. So Barrett, you go ahead because you spoke before James, and James can finish off.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm taking more than my 5 minutes here, but I just want you to know that I personally feel strongly enough about this cause that it's worth studying at least. I wouldn't say I've jumped to the conclusion that yes, it absolutely can and should be saved, but from what I've seen, I think it's a little bit of a challenge with the structure that's there, but I certainly don't think it's undoable, and I like challenges. So I'm going to go on record here right now and say that I will personally volunteer as a registered architect to at least study this situation in more detail at no cost to anybody except me. Just to get a deeper understanding of what exactly would be required to restore it at least to a usable level, and to a level at which point it could be, leased out to somebody for some actual revenue to help with some of the costs going forward. And I would also study maybe the possibility of the subdivision, speak to Brown Johnson or somebody about, well, what are the legalities of the subdivision, talk to the city planning department and see exactly how big a piece can be split off of there, and ask Bill what he's willing to pay for it, and see how much money we can raise to fix this thing up.
Price is $1.5 million because that's what we need.
It's not $1.5 million, I guarantee you.
No, that's for the lot.
Sorry?
I'm just letting Mr. Laird know that's.
Oh, that's the price of the lot. Yeah. That makes sense. And I'm sure that'll be more than enough to make it decent.
Thank you very much for your generous offer. James.
I just want to make an observation. Everybody here is about the same age and everything, and they're saying very similar things. But there's 3 people sitting behind me that are a different generation. And I was sitting there listening to everybody, and I kept going back to the times that I would sit on those benches eating my lunch and just looking at the building and sort of drifting. And I think it's really important for a younger generation to experience the history that Deb and everybody else has been talking about, for younger generations to. And if we don't have that building and we don't have those benches and we don't have that green space, it's lost to them. You know, I just think that's sort of important. There's a generational thing here, and young people need it more than ever. They need that link with the past. That's
Great,
just want
thank
to
you
make
very
a
much.
comment.
Is anyone else who hasn't had an opportunity and would like to speak, please do come forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome. Just give us your name.
Okay, so my name is Jasmine Reichland, and I'm 19 years old, and I've lived in Salmon Arm my whole life. And my surrogate grandmother is Deborah Chapman, and I've grown up with history thanks to her. A lot of my time has been spent at Haney Heritage, which has given me, I think, an appreciation for the history of Salmon Arm. And I'm probably not, going to add anything that hasn't already been said, but history is very important. And I think that historical buildings are, well, they should be preserved. I went on vacation recently to Europe, and I noticed how many historical buildings are there. And admittedly, it's because the country's been around for a lot longer than Canada has. But I think that makes it all the more important to preserve what historical buildings we have. And about the McGuire House, yeah, I noticed how that was torn down, and I have to say I was a little upset about it because I appreciate old buildings. Bit of a ramble here, but
You're doing well, Jasmine.
well, thank you. It's my first time speaking in front of a city hall. Yeah, but for the younger generation, I especially think it's important to immerse yourself in your history because Salmon Arm has a mixed one, in my experience, but this building here has clearly been a place of gathering and good. And for that reason, I think that it definitely should be preserved in any way possible. Like a science center, like you mentioned. I've been to the one in Vernon, and it was, as a young person, it was amazing. It was super cool. Flubber's awesome. But just like any sort of way that it can be preserved would be awesome.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thank you for being so brave. You did a great job.
Hopefully in a couple years I can improve my vocabulary.
I see that. I think June was trying her best to unmute, but she did leave us a written message. So she's arrived. June, can you speak now? Maybe we'll hear you. Okay, well, we do have your written information. We'll all just take a minute to read it. Oh, you can. I'll read it out to you. It's not letting me speak at all. Can we just put that up a little bit, Aaron, so I can get the top part? There we go. Dear Mayor, members of City Council, I attempted to unmute myself to speak. I've been unsuccessful. I agree that the City of Salmon Arm has not spent funds to maintain this building. I'm concerned that this heritage building will follow suit as a memorial arena. The City of Salmon Arm managed to find funds to have a chain link fence put around the city sewer plant. Hopefully there can be funds found to save this heritage building from demolition. Thank you, June, for that written submission, and we will make sure we copy it so all other council members see it as well. Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Mr. Laird, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and fellow citizens, especially the young folks. 1.5 is a bit high.
We can negotiate.
But I wrote down James' offer of 60. So we're started. There's nothing really more to add. We own the lot next door. We would be prepared to work with the city if the city was interested in selling a portion and adding it to that lot. And we would do whatever we could to help fix the building if in fact it's proven that could be done. We had the privilege, thanks to Mr. Buxton, to go through the building the other day, and the biggest problem really is the brick. The roof is spreading because of the dome or arc inside it, so the trusses are pushing out, but as Byrne pointed out, they can be pulled back in. So it remains to be seen if the building can be saved, but there's a groundswell here, and I think we could find more in the community. Interestingly enough, what do we get if we increase the taxes 1%? 250,000?
Yep, well, just over 200.
Right, so there's an opportunity. And I think people would donate. I mean, look what Bollywood just did, $500,000. And that's for an MRI. MRI?
Yep.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, it's a great piece, and Deborah's photographs add a lot to put it in perspective. So good luck. I appreciate there's no money, and being a free enterpriser, I'd be quite happy to join James, but for a lot smaller number. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other speakers? Okay, seeing none, I'm just going to see if any councillor has any questions or wants to say anything. Don't feel like you have to. We are here to listen, but if any councillor wants to say anything at this time, I would open it to you. Councillor Ganella, please go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm the chair of the Cultural Heritage Committee, and I'm also chair on the RJ Haney Committee as well. So I'm pretty well versed on the importance of this building. I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight and giving us your views and your true and honest opinion about what we should do with this building, because it's important to hear from you, because we'll need your support for whatever we decide budget time. So, please come back and let us know then how you feel. It's important. I know from my experience, this is only my first term on council. This council does listen. We do our best to meet the expectations of our citizens in this community. And we thank you for also understanding with the constraints that we are with the budget. But with that in mind, thank you for coming out. And if you need to add any more, we're always listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ganella. Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I also want to acknowledge that it can be very anxiety inducing to step up to the mic and share your thoughts. It's very brave of all of you to do that. But there are more than one way to speak to council. Feel free by all means, if your comfort level is such that you would prefer to write an email, that would be most welcome. We're not here to make any decisions. We're here to collect input. If you had friends and colleagues who might have wanted to be here and weren't able to, and they have feedback, by all means, that's what we're here to do, is receive the feedback as we move forward in this process. So I just wanted to thank you for your time and encourage you to encourage each other to continue to provide the feedback so that we make the best decision possible for the best outcome possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace-Richmond. I'll just close by thanking you as well. Thanks for spending the evening with us. Thanks for sharing your ideas and thoughts. Council will take your information that you provided, and as I had mentioned, certainly open to more information over the next couple of weeks until the end of June. We haven't decided a timeline on when we would make a decision. We certainly agree with Mr. Reddy that will ensure that that building is heated and as safe as possible. In the meantime, as I've said, we haven't made any decisions at this time. I think Councillor Ganella summarized it pretty well. If we had unlimited funds, I think we feel very similar to the way that you have expressed yourselves. We don't have unlimited funds. So that makes the decision much more difficult. So we will do our best. Thank you so much for attending this evening, and I will adjourn this town hall meeting. Thank you.